Taos in Baltimore, and WNST.net. All our bags are packed. And we are headed to Canton, Ohio. Still a handful of seats remaining on our Ray Lewis trip. You can email me, nasty@WNST.net. And in honor of all things John Ogden and Ray Lewis, I'm wearing the heirloom, probably the coolest thing I have in my closet, Luke Jones, of all the Ravens memories, mementos, Super Bowl memorabilia, all that stuff. I have the first hat in Ravens history on my head. I'm going to be wearing it to Canton this week. And if I'm not wearing it this week, then when, right? And, I mean, Adam Jones might still be an Oriole by the time we get to Canton this weekend. I thought he'd be a Cleveland Indian. You might have thought he'd be a Philadelphia Philly. This has taken a very, very bizarre turn here late into the day on Sunday and heading up onto the deadline on Tuesday.
Yeah, I can't say I'm shocked by this. I really can't. I mean, I said to you all along, and reminded everyone all along, Adam Jones has 10-5 right. And Adam Jones is his own man. And Adam Jones has a family and a lot of different factors that go on that sports fans and media people a lot of times forget. These are human beings. And, it's not an easy situation to be uprooted right in the middle of a baseball season and traded. And I said all along I wasn't completely convinced that Adam Jones would just say, I'm going to leave right here and now.
Well, Messina didn't, right? And Messina had little kids and all that stuff, and I don't even remember why he didn't. You know what I mean? He wasn't pitching all that well for him. He was playing for a big contract, and I think if he went somewhere and flopped, it would only hurt his value. I'm not sure that pitching in October and pitching maybe healthy, maybe not. And he stormed. After he didn't get dealt, he was ridiculously good for a really bad team. And as I wrote about, he threw shutouts on the way out the door and sort of flew the middle finger at the Orioles and then went and took his $88 million from the Yankees. I don't know what the Adam Jones story would be, but it would be interesting if he hit 13 home runs the rest of the way and, drove in 41 runs and hit 341 literally over a 2-month clip. That would be interesting. I don't know. The thing we talk about with him was the money, the value, what's in it for the Orioles, what's in it for him. Does he want to really stay here? Do they really? They don't want him here, right? That's the deal is he bought Ripken's place, and if he's not leaving now, he's leaving soon, and they're not as romantic about this as potentially he is, right? That's the vibe from the Duquette post-game, but then again, we don't even know if Duquette's going to be running the place in 8 weeks. It's such an S show that I can't get over all of it, and I don't know the politics of it, but it really smacks of why wouldn't Adam Jones take a deal to Philadelphia and go 90 miles up the road and try to win? I don't know, but it really feels like there's a lot of onion to peel back here and a lot of emotions in a lot of ways, but the Orioles are in the middle of this, so I can never give them the benefit of the doubt. Sorry, but I can't. I'm wondering what the hell's going on. I really am.
That's fair, and I'll be totally honest, I'm not sure there's all that much to this other than some very clear, and you mentioned emotion. You have a long-standing relationship here. You have uncertainty as far as what the future is going to look like on so many different levels. It's clear this team has begun a rebuilding process. That's very clear. As they've traded Manny Machado, they traded Zach Britton, and they traded Brad Brock on Sunday, albeit only for an international signing bonus slot. But how about the fact that the Orioles acquired an international signing bonus slot, not the other way around? So that's signaling some semblance of a changing of the guard. But in the case of Jones here, first of all, I want to make this very clear. I don't think trading Adam Jones for whatever you get for Adam Jones is moving the meter all that dramatically much in a rebuilding process. I don't think you're getting very much for him because of the salary, because of the fact that he turns 33 years old, is about to turn 33 years old, and has only put up okay numbers this year. You're not getting a great prospect for Adam Jones.
This isn't the Adam Jones of 2013. This is the Adam Jones of 2018.
Right. So I want to be very clear about that. And I don't think if Adam Jones sticks around for 2 more months that it's ruining Cedric Mullins' development or really hindering him all that terribly much.
He can go run and play baseball wherever they put him in an outfield, and he can do whatever he does, right?
So I want to make that part of it very, very clear, because I've already seen some fans kind of say, well, Jones is, he's screwing over the Orioles. The Mike Messina thing that you referenced was interesting because Messina was still very much in the prime of his career. I can't remember Messina's age at that point in time, but still had plenty of great baseball ahead of him. And I think most of us would agree that while Adam Jones probably still has, it's reasonable to think he has a couple more solid years left. He certainly, the days of him being an all-star caliber player look to be behind him. So that part, let's just acknowledge that. This is clearly a guy who has a legacy here in Baltimore, to someone who has been very invested in Baltimore, not just with the baseball team, signing up long-term when, let's face it, it wasn't very cool to be an Oriole in 2012, and many people thought he could have done better for himself if he had hit the market, but he made a commitment.
Most guys could do better if they play well. If they don't, then they're better signing young, right? Like,
sure.
Scope would have gotten more money last year than he potentially will get this year, just based on where you are in the timeline and the continuum, right? Like, and when you have your big year, usually that's the way it works, and at what age you're having it.
Yeah. So from Jones's side of this, do I think this is a potential missed opportunity for him to go to the Phillies or the Indians or whoever potentially is going to strike a deal? And let's keep in mind there have been 10-5 guys who initially said they weren't going to accept a deal. Or accept a trade, and then they end up doing it. And I still think Jones would be a candidate even in August to be traded because of his salary. So let's provide that caveat. But I just think in the case of Adam Jones, I think he would like to stay here. At least there was some interest in him staying here for the right price, and depending on what would happen in testing the market. Based on what Dan Duquette has said, based on his tone on Sunday when he was point-blank asked about it, you get the sense that he's not terribly interested in bringing Jones back beyond this year if he's here. And again, that goes back to your point, who's going to be running the place. I think it's pretty apparent that the Orioles, in the short term, have given Duquette maybe not full autonomy, but clearly he's been able to make some moves. I don't think Brady Anderson is negotiating these trades. I don't think Lou Angelos got the haul for Manny Machado. I think that was Dan Duquette. And they've given him some, whatever that level of power is, they've been able to do some things here and do some things that have been well received. But I think go back a couple years even, it's been pretty apparent that Duquette and Jones aren't exactly buddy-buddy, aren't exactly guys that necessarily have been on the same page. You go back to the outfield defense talk a couple off seasons ago where Jones said, hey, we need better corner outfielders, and Duquette said, well, maybe if we change your positioning, and they kind of went back and forth subtly through the media with things like that. So these aren't best friends. These aren't two guys that have a great relationship. So is there something here to be said that Duquette, however long he's going to be here, whether it's just through the next couple months or whether John and Lou Angelos have identified him to be their guy. I mean,
and if they have, why keep it a secret?
Well, I agree.
Seriously.
I totally agree.
Seriously.
Understood, but if you have read and heard every comment that he's made...
Oh, he sounds like he's like running the place for as long as Trump is president.
He does. And that's where you at least take some pause, but to the point that you just made, you're absolutely right, and I agree 1,000%. If he is that guy, then why not make it official and make that announcement?
I'm not buying a word he says because he doesn't have a gig after October 1st. And if he did, I feel like it would be in their best interest to tell me he does. So the fact that they haven't leads me to believe that he doesn't. And isn't that the way it always is, right? I mean, as much as you say, well, this is changing, that's changing. You know what isn't changing? The trading deadline's on Tuesday. We still don't know who considers themselves the owner of the team or what the strategy of the team is. And when they send out this guy who has zero ability to in any way make you feel confident, Dan Duquette, I'm talking, there's no way you can feel confident in the words he's giving you because there's no teeth behind it, because there's no contract behind it, because there's no human being behind it that says this is our guy and this is the guy this is the architect. He's going to be running the team from now on. There's no one that believes that. There's no one that's been around there with Brady Anderson sniffing around that believes that either. There's no one in the scouting side. I've talked to 4 different people in the organization who've all told me nothing happens without Brady checking off on it. And that's the way it's really being run right now. And the rest of it's a show. I've been told that. So I've been told that by people who I believe. And then there's this whole Adam Jones thing that bubbles on Sunday that smacks of something that I don't know, because I'm not there to ask these people. I don't know these people, but something I'm not taking as authentic and legitimate. How about that? Does that make sense? I smell something here.
Okay, well, okay.
So does Peter Schmuck, by the way, but that, he's.
I hear what you're saying. Well, then what is it then?
I don't know. A bad feeling, certainly, of some kind. And why Adam Jones would want to hang around here and play 60 days on a team playing 300 ball instead of going to first place on Wednesday morning?
But that's what you think.
Bizarre.
That's what you think he should do, though.
Right.
Adam Jones can do what he wants.
Of course,
he's earned that. He's a 10-5 guy. There have been plenty of guys that have vetoed trades in the history of Major League Baseball. That's his right. I mean, if you want to say,
and it's his right to not have to talk about it, but he's in the middle of it, and whatever he says, I'm going to take seriously. I don't know what that is, but I don't know why he'd still want to be playing for the Orioles on Friday if they don't want him at the end of the year, or what the mojo is. But again, I began this by saying Messina did the same thing and said, I don't want to do it. I think it's. I questioned it then on his behalf, but he stayed healthy and went and got $89 million, and these guys are in the business of business. When I saw Adam Jones at the tunnel where it was, I think, about 3 degrees in Denver that day, huffing and puffing at Joe Flacco, when I saw Adam Jones when it was about 21 degrees at 8:30 at night as everybody's doing their victory laps in Foxborough and he and Phelps are running around all smoked up, and I saw them on the field, it felt to me like he would want that. Maybe doing that in Philadelphia, he would have no emotion about that. Maybe doing it in Cleveland is something he wouldn't feel good. I don't know. I mean, but it's going to be his turn to talk soon, right?
Well, I mean, he's talked, and I mean, he talked about this Thursday. I mean, I wrote this on Thursday. I mean, you can go back and read it at WNST.net. One of the big lines that I wrote was, if people think he's so desperate to leave that he's just going to take a trade anywhere without any questions asked and not consider his family or his charitable endeavors here or tying things up, I think because Adam is a little rough around the edges that people don't think that he's not a careful planner and a careful observer, and he doesn't care about his legacy and care about doing things a certain way. I think he's, in those types of ways, he's a little bit more like a Cal Ripken than you might think. Even though perception-wise and the way he speaks and the way that he'll speak his mind, and sometimes he'll be moody and not always say the right thing, but there are parts of Adam Jones that are similar in that way, and I think there is something to the thought of him going out on his terms, maybe perhaps, and it was reported by The Athletic that he had lunch with John Angelos back in Toronto a couple weeks back. Maybe there was a conversation at that point that he had said, hey, I'll accept a trade, but I'd like to keep the door open to come back here because he does care about Baltimore. And, it's not just about the Orioles or just being comfortable. He's done a lot in the community here, and he expressed this last week that he doesn't want to just kind of abandon the city, and he feels that people need to be invested in Baltimore. So there are a lot of moving parts to this, and is there something to this getting into an awkward Duquette against Jones thing in some way? Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. But at the same time, Adam Jones has every right, and he's deserved the right to decide if he wants to be traded now or if he wants to tie up loose ends with the Orioles, with the community, with his family, and then hit the market in November. I mean, if he wants to do it that way, he can do it. I think personally he's missing out on a potential good opportunity for him to win. But
yeah, I was talking to my wife about that. Like, I mean, you don't know if you're going to be alive in November, let alone that you're going to sign somewhere and have more chances to win. I know what he's not doing by staying here. He's wasting one of the 12 to 16 years that he will have and one of the 3 to 7 years he'll have left to win a championship in wherever. And I know one thing, and he can be all brokenhearted. He can have a B.J. Surhoff presser or whatever. He's not winning a championship here. Certainly not anytime soon. So if he's not going to win here, why not Philadelphia or Cleveland or wherever ball players go? And look, I don't know his wife, but I know her father pretty well. And, you know, she married a professional athlete. Her dad was a professional athlete. Renting off Adam Jones for 60 days or 90 days, he's a ball player. They're bred to win baseball games. They're bred to win championships. They're paid to win championships. They dream of winning championships. That being said, if Adam Jones thinks that going to Philadelphia he can't win or it wouldn't mean something to him, or his wife's out running a Baltimore County liquor thing, or whatever, I don't know, but I do know from my wisdom at 50, every chance to win a championship is one you should take, because there's no saying that you sign with the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Cubs, and I don't think he's going to get that opportunity, right? Like, good teams aren't going to want him probably at the end of the season, and they're certainly not going to give him a 3-year, $60 million deal. That would be something that the Orioles may consider overpaying, but I thought Duquette sort of slapped him in the face a little bit Sunday and said, we're getting younger. You know what I mean? Whatever that means. Hey, dude, we're not giving you $35 million to hang out here and be a mentor. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I get the vibe that that's not happening. I don't know what the emotions that are. I do know people who know Adam Jones pretty well, and I know the Ripken house purchase was in his mind to live in the next few years, to be here. I know he doesn't want to. I know he doesn't want to leave. Dude, you know, they're going to make you leave, and that's pretty clear. And on whatever terms you wish, but it is a little freaky that he'd still be playing baseball here on Friday when he could be doing it in Philadelphia in first place. I find that to be of the Adam Jones that I saw on the field in Denver and in New England, and the one you've encountered in the locker room who wants to win, it's not realistic to win here. So, and he knows that intellectually, but this is really weird. It's weird even discussing it in terms of not knowing what's going on with him, and certainly not knowing what's going on within the framework of the organization. But the organization said out loud, we have tried to trade Adam. He doesn't want to be traded to Philadelphia, and we're not interested in keeping him at the end of the year. That's the message I'm getting out of the weekend. Now, whatever he wants to do with it, that's between him and his wife and, you know, his creator and his agent, right? Literally, right?
Yeah, and again, I'll remind everyone, this is his right, and there are other factors that go on besides baseball. I mean, I'll remind everyone, these are human beings, and, you know, even Brad Brock has talked about this. Zach Britton talked about it. Machado
I think it's nice they didn't deal Brock off before his wife got to sing and play some fireworks the other night, so at least they did that the right way.
Right.
Because I was a little worried. Like, what happens if you deal him before his wife does the anthem in a song? I mean, I literally, I thought that was a little weird.
But again, we have to. There is context here. For all we know, and look, I'm not saying that this is true. I haven't heard this. This is pure speculation. For all we know, there's something going on in his family right now that means he needs to stay here. And
fair enough.
And maybe the Orioles aren't even aware of that. For all we know, so that's where I caution that. Again, whatever the Orioles are going to or were going to get for Adam Jones, it's not turning the franchise around. You know what they're probably getting in terms of a caliber of a prospect? Probably someone that's akin to a Rule 5 pick. I mean, seriously, that's probably what you're getting. Someone that's, you're not getting a top 100 guy, you're not getting a top 200 guy. You're getting someone that an organization might like.
From a standpoint for the Orioles, it's saving money, whatever they would negotiate with the Phillies to say, you pay half, we pay half, you give us a bag of baseballs. Then there's what you get in compensation for him, which would be negligible. This really is about, hey, dude, do you want to go over there and play for a while or not? Yeah. And if you don't, fine, stay here. That's kind of the vibe, right? Literally.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about it. And I say, look, like I said, is Adam Jones potentially missing an opportunity to win somewhere else? Yeah, sure. Do I think it's something that is that big of a deal one way or the other as far as the end result? Not really. But, to the point that you made and what Dan Duquette said on Sunday, and we'll go back to saying, well, we don't know if Dan Duquette's going to be calling the shots in any shape or form come November. He's at least expressed that, it's clear that this team's making a commitment to get younger. Now, is there a change in that? Is there a process where the Orioles say, look, Adam, we'll bring you back at 2 years, $20 million. Well, we're not going to insult you, but we're not giving you a big long-term contract. We're not breaking the bank. And if you can do better elsewhere, or if you want to go somewhere else and have a better chance to win in 2019 and 2020, that's great. But we're not going to, we're not giving you a 5-year contract or a 4-year contract or anything like that. Perhaps that was the conversation, and maybe Adam and his representation kind of just said, well, okay, we'll see how that plays out, and maybe not what he wanted to hear, and maybe there is some spite going on here. I don't know. That part of it I don't know. I do know there are other variables that matter to him other than just going to a winner, and he has the right, and something in the collective bargaining agreement that veteran players have fought for a long time, and if he ultimately decides to stay put and they don't even try to work out a deal in August, which, like I said, I think given what his salary is, he's someone I could see passing through waivers and being a trade candidate still. If he ends up playing out his last 2 months with the Orioles, then, hey, he'll have a nice farewell.
Yeah, that's a great point. That this isn't the be-all, end-all this week for him.
It's not.
Because of the money and because of who he is, he could certainly slip through.
Yeah, I mean, look at Justin Verlander last year. I mean, my goodness, that was a waiver deal, and people kind of forget about that. And my goodness,
I had just forgotten about that. But
right. So look what that. And if you remember, a lot of the dialogue, and I don't want to say, I don't want to just completely recall it. Like I have a great, perfect memory of it. But there was dialogue about whether he would accept a trade, and that came down to the 11th hour as far as him accepting a trade from Detroit to Houston, and that was a very similar situation. I mean, he had spent, I think 13 years in that organization. I think he was drafted in 04, 05, something like that, and he took an August 31st trade. So just because Jones at this point is not giving the inclination that he's going to waive his no-trade clause, his 10-5 rights, doesn't mean that still couldn't play out. But like I said, even if he stays put and this is it, and he plays 2 more months for the Orioles, and he has a farewell tour, so to speak, or if the Orioles decide that they'll give him a modest deal and he wants to stay, and hey, this organization needs people to buy in, and if it means Adam Jones is going to mentor Cedric Mullins and Austin Hayes and some guys like that for the next couple of years, if they do decide, that
it would be weird that he signs up for that, though.
I would agree. No, I would agree with that entirely. But I'm just saying the end result, to me, that's not the worst thing in the world either. And a lot of it,
that's my whole thing with going and playing for the Phillies for 8 weeks or 10 weeks is like, hey, dude, you can come back and sign here again if nobody's giving you a 3-year deal and the Orioles offer to throw in a 3rd year at $10 million or something on the backside of 2 years at 25 or something that would be way more than what you're going to get anywhere else. I mean, I think he has more value to a bad Orioles team than he does to, I don't want to be insulting and say a good whomever, but I don't know where the need is. I don't know where the need is right now. I mean, teams aren't clamoring to put Adam Jones into their lineup right now and pay him $6 million over the next 8 weeks. He's virtually free if you want him. All you need to do is get him to agree to come and play. I mean, and it's funny to me that there aren't 2 or 3 or 4 teams and one of his bunkies around the league somewhere, some McCutcheon friend, somebody that he would want to go and play with or go out and play with Machado. And I'm making that up. I feel like he's a pretty connected cat that would have friends most places and would feel pretty good about slipping on a Phillies hat on Friday and being in first place and going out and looking to kick some ass for 10 or 12 weeks. Like, I see a lot of that in Adam Jones. I mean, I figured I thought that would be the guy who he would be. He would just take the bull and say, I'll go play the outfield wherever you'll give me a chance, and I'm going to go try to make your team better because that's who I am. Because that's deep down who I think he is. I mean, I've had people look, man, Munch Bishop has called me 14 times this season about Adam Jones, about Machado first, but about Adam Jones. Would Machado play third? All that nonsense around Frankie Liriano and all that stuff. Or, you know what I'm saying. But for me, I thought Philadelphia, boy, that when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, McPhail, Klentak, young team, first place, Braves, Nationals might sell off. Dude, that's a chance where you almost know you're going to be playing games in October. That's something you go to spring training dying to do every day, is have a chance to play in a game in October. I mean, and Adam Jones had a lot of those years when he didn't have that chance. So I am a little shocked by this. I mean, that's why I feel like, something's going on here. We'll figure it out. We don't know right now, but there's going to be an investigation into this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not totally shocked by it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought he would reject.
I meant Lindor, by the way, but go ahead. You know what I meant.
But I mean, I think it is. It definitely is interesting in that regard. Is there more to this? Yeah, probably a little bit. But I don't think. I mean, I don't really know what the complications would be beyond a point of perhaps he, thought he might have a handshake agreement to go somewhere else and then resign, and maybe found out the organization doesn't want him at the end.
Maybe John told him one thing and Duquette told him something else.
And maybe so, and maybe this is a case where maybe he's hurt a little bit, or maybe because I said he's a proud guy. He is, and there are other factors that he does consider beyond just the baseball side of this. I mean, again, what you or me or what fans, or even what Dan Duquette and the Orioles.
Well, he announced his big tailgate last week, like, I'm going to be here in December no matter what, because I've always done it. And it's fine and all that. But the timing of that was sort of like, well, even if they trade me, I'll still be here. Or, hey, I'm showing John I've got a commitment to be here. Pay me. Because a lot of this, from a negotiating standpoint, would be that if the Orioles are going to give him a third year, you know what I mean, like, and keep him around that no one else would potentially give him, that would be a reason for him to put his cleats down and say, you know what, maybe I'll win here in the third year. Worked out okay for Markakis. Show me the plan. I really believe in Bundy. I really believe in Gausman. I believe in Brady even. He may buy into the Brady sauce. He may be buying into the John and Lou story, although he's been here with his eyes open for 12 years, and I've written freely for his benefit and everyone else's as to what the history is around here. But this is a very choppy time. That's all the way around, from Machado to Britton last week, to Brock, to what the future is, to where Buck and Duquette are, to them playing 300 baseball and maybe not even getting the number one pick before this is all over with, to now this. Why wouldn't this be a fiasco too, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a fiasco. I mean, again, I'll remind everyone, even if Adam Jones said, I'll take a trade, you're not getting back a prospect that's in fact, you're getting back a prospect that I would bet against.
Yeah, this is all about him, not about them.
So,
that's fair enough.
So that's where I think both, more so the organization needs to tread carefully here. And this is where Dan Duquette, for as much as I've stuck up for him more so than some people, because I've thought he's done a pretty good job from a context of knowing the challenges of working for this organization, for this ownership group over the years.
I'll keep using Marty Conway's word. It's unorthodox, Luke. It's unorthodox.
Oh, sure. But the thing I will say about Duquette, and this is something that goes back to him in Boston or even Montreal, he lacks people skills. He does. I mean, and that's where you don't want to see this become an ugly divorce and ending with Adam Jones. If this is a case where they say they don't want him, and then he says he's not going to accept a trade, and
if he's been lied to, if John's like, we really want you, and Duquette's like, yeah, we can live without you, and he's heard that, and like that would freak him out. He can't come out and say that, but if he's not getting an honest message from the organization, that would smack to me of why this would be the way it is, because and look, John Angelos is no expert at managing people. John Angelos has never managed a lemonade stand, okay? John Angelos woke up on third base but firmly believes he had a triple or at least a double and stole third. So, based on where we are, I don't know, but this should be between him and John Angelos. If they had a lunch together last week, whatever they decided is whatever they should have decided last Friday, and if he's not going to take a deal to Philadelphia, it shouldn't have been as sloppily portrayed as it's been this weekend. But as I said, no one around there really has been really good at any of this. And nor should Adam Jones be good at this. The team's playing 300. Do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? And have the media run to his locker and ask him. But it is, up to him. It really is up to him. So whatever comes out of this, they've said that they could have said, hey, dude, train goes to Philadelphia tonight. Do you want to be on it? He said no. That's kind of all we know, right? Literally.
Right.
Anything else?
And you know what? It could be that simple because, like I said, players who, veteran players who have families and have been in a place in a long time. And if Jones had been in this position 6 years ago, he may already be in Philadelphia for all we know. But there are other factors that are at work here, and this is something that just because professional athletes make a lot of money doesn't mean that those other things don't matter, and doesn't mean that they aren't human beings with emotions and problems, quite frankly. Even though,
but Adam Jones had a long time to think this through, right? Like if this is his conclusion, then it is. But this is not something new. He sat and watched the whole Machado, spinning wheel for 10 days. He's watched Britain. I mean, and this could happen last year. This going up to the deadline, that you would have had more value last year. So, if he would have agreed to leave if they didn't want him, but he thinks of himself as the guy on the wall, and I'm sure he thinks of himself as, if I leave here and you don't sign me for the third year, and you're not, what are you going to put Chris on the wall? I mean, what are you going to do around here the next couple of years? But that's, as I would point out in his Dear Orioles letter, which is coming, and it's sort of in limbo waiting to figure out what the destination or the story here is, it's not for him to decide at this point. And, I'm talking about the future. I wonder through all of these years whether he really has that much respect for them that he really wanted to stay. The pie incident, the way Peter's been, the breakup of the band right now, all of that would lead me to believe he's intellectually, over the last 18 months, if all he saw himself doing was living in Cal Ripken's house and playing basketball in the gym in 2019 and 20 and 21, then he wasn't being very realistic about this.
Well, and maybe so. And again, we're continuing to bring it back to just the baseball context of this. Adam Jones lives here. He goes and in San Diego in the off season, but he's invested here. He's bought homes here. He has done more in the community than basically any athlete, in this modern era here in Baltimore.
I would say combined, by the way, but okay. I don't want to be disrespectful to any of them who've done stuff, but he has been way more street, out in front with the fans. He's a guy that deserves to be respected and, given the color of his skin and where we are in history and the riots. But I really think he has been a diminished property for them, and I think in the end this might not end well. And you know what? I might have been predictive of that all the way along, because they haven't had warm fuzzies with a whole lot of people at the end. It's hard to do, granted, in that industry. But, at this particular point in time, I think he feels like, if I'm going to make $10 million playing someplace next year, why wouldn't you pay me $12 and let me hang out here if this is where I want to be and helping you folks rebuild and helping my legacy and helping build what I'm going to have down in the future? But I really did see him as a guy who really was important for him to win. And I'm a little shocked by this. That's all I'm saying. I'm a little shocked.
And that's fair. Hey, people can be surprised by it. Part of me is certainly surprised by it, but part of me also knows that other things do matter to him. And he is someone who has kind of always gone to move to his own beat. He's someone, he went against the norm when he signed in 2012. And I get it. Markakis had signed a few years back before that, but he was about a year away from free agency at that point, and Jones decided he was going to take a long-term deal, and he saw promise in what the Orioles were building at that point in time, and he proved to be right in that regard. They had a really successful run, even though they didn't get to the pinnacle.
Hey, I found an old letter I wrote to him the day he signed on, wondering what the hell he was doing. Literally, when he signed up, it looked maybe more bleak than it looks now in some ways, because there had been nothing in the wake of it all. Even though now it looks pretty bleak, I think. This is not a place you want to sign up if you think you're going to win in the next 3 years. Markakis would have said that and was whistling a different tune at the All-Star game a couple weeks ago. So, there is that redemption story for him that's out there. But to think that redemption story is going to be here, I sincerely hope Adam Jones reads the Peter Principles, because there is no history of them turning this around, and he knows what they're up against with the Yankees and the Red Sox. So, it's going to play itself out, and to your point, it's not over on Tuesday night, right? So
no,
we'll let it lie at that. And anything you want to throw in on Brad Brock, before I do that, let me plug two sponsors, because we got two brand new sponsors here. I want to give them the love that they deserve. First off, Sydney and the great folks over at Charles Newsonoff & Sons are back with us, and whether you're getting engaged, celebrating your 50th, or anywhere in between, or our 20th year this week, they're your place for jewelry, diamonds, watches, gifts, and exciting new selections. True Loves comes in many shapes and sizes, and everybody's budgets fit over at Charles Newsonoff & Sons. They buy gold. They do layaway. Financing's available. Sydney's there. The staff is there. Come see them in Parkville. Since 1923, it's Charles Newsonoff & Sons. Let's grow old together. You'll be hearing more about them throughout the football season. Also, Sporticulture. This is now, you're going to need to learn about this. My pal Court grows flowers. He's a diehard Ravens fan, and he's one of the biggest wholesale flower guys around the area. I've been out on this farm. It's incredible out in the west side of town. And they're doing flowers all over the country. So I'm going to be telling you more about this. It's Sporticulture. That's sporticulture.com. You can look them up on Facebook. You can look them up out on the web. We're going to have flowers sitting on the ledge behind me here in NFL fan colors. Obviously, mine are going to be purple, but if you have a team of choice, you can ship these flowers very easily. 50% off for any WNST user by using the code WNST. It's Sporticulture for the deep-rooted fan. I'll be telling you more about the flowers. Your mom would like some purple flowers, right, Luke? That'd be fine for you, right?
Absolutely.
Your sister, too, although I know her old man's into the Eagles, and they're all tooting their horn. By the way, Haloti Ngata is an Eagle. Yeah, Torrey Smith is a Carolina Panther. I'm learning stuff here during this is what August is all about, or July in this case, right?
No question about it.
All right. Well, Brad Brock, we're not going to do a whole rigmarole on this, and we also knew he was a guy they weren't going to get a ton back in exchange for, but not a shocker that he went on Sunday night.
No. Maybe the biggest shocker is what the Orioles got, an international signing bonus slot, which they have made very clear, and we heard the talk over the weekend and rumors about them being in on Victor Mesa.
Is this where they step up and say, we've been really stupid in the past, but we're not stupid anymore? Is that what pretty much what this is? At
some point in time, guess what happens? In order to not be stupid anymore, you need to change. And if they can sign Victor Mesa, which I'm not going to pretend to say I know a whole lot about, other than if he had been eligible. I
knew a lot about his father, by the way, because I did study some Cuban baseball back in the 90s,
Right.
His father was a hell of a player.
He's 22 years old, and if he had been eligible for the start of the international signing period earlier this summer, I know MLB.com said he would have been the top international free agent available. So it shows what kind of talent he has, and with the Orioles buying basically selling off Brad Brock for an extra $250,000 in slot, leads you to believe that maybe they are making a run trying to sign him.
And a player to be named later from the Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah, right? I mean, we'll see. But the reality is, and Duquette has talked about this, he first proclaimed this the night that they dealt Machado, and they've made very clear on a few occasions now that they plan on being more active in the international market. They have slots because they haven't announced any signings. Now, Duquette said after the trade on Sunday that they expect to announce a couple deals that they have, and he cited the Dominican and Venezuela. But the reality is there aren't a whole lot of top international free agents left that haven't been signed. So if it's not Mesa, then I don't know why they're picking up a slot if they're not going to use it. So definitely interesting in that regard. I mean, Brad Brock, he had a nice run here. This year has been disappointing. There's no doubt about that, and that's the reason why the Orioles only got a slot for him. Could they have gotten some really low-level, non-prospect minor leaguer? Sure, I'm sure they could have done that, but they decided to get slot, and you hope for him. He goes to Atlanta, where Dave Wallace and Dom Chidi are in that organization, and they are the ones who helped make the adjustments for him when he came over from San Diego and what was one of Dan Duquette's best trades. I think they traded minor league pitcher, I think it was Devin Jones, who never amounted to anything. But, Brock was a big part of that bullpen for several years and made an all-star team a couple years back. And I know didn't necessarily fill in all that effectively for Zach Britton, but Brock, nice run for him. I would have liked to have seen the Orioles deal him in the off season. I said from the time that Britton had the torn Achilles, I would have looked to move Brock at that point because I think he still had some value left. And, well, we saw how this year panned
it's relief
out
pitching,
with
right? It is what it is, right? Buy low, sell high. Well, that's what they were going to do with Britton. All of that stuff. But it didn't work out that way. They got $250,000 in signing, but that's what they got, right?
Yeah, and if they end up getting Mesa, and that $250,000 puts them over the hump compared to some of the few teams that still have enough slot money to be able to make that kind of a signing, then great. Maybe we'll look back at that in a few years and say, hey, Brad Brock brought them back something nice. But this outcome wasn't surprising. It was going to be nothing more than a salary dump, and to this point, till we see what the Orioles do with that slot money, this is a salary dump. And, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, doesn't diminish what Brad Brock was able to accomplish here. It had a nice run for the Orioles, and you hope for his sake, and I guess hope for the sake of the Atlanta Braves, they can get him straightened out, because we've seen when he's right, he can absolutely be a really reliable seventh or eighth inning guy for a bullpen trying to close the door on a narrow advantage.
All right, when exactly Tuesday does the season end? Just
4 o'clock.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
The season ended back in April.
Yeah,
actually.
I know.
Hey, well, let's just say 3 in a row. They won 3 out of 4. First 3-game winning streak for the Orioles since mid-May. They just had over the weekend, which is, I would say it's unbelievable. But if you've been watching the Orioles this year, maybe it is believable.
Would the girls on the internet say "woot woot"? Is that what they would say?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But to their credit, they played some good baseball over the weekend, and they knocked the Rays down to the 500 mark, so they got that going for them, which is nice, I guess.
He is Baltimore Luke out on Twitter and Luke at WNST.net, and when he is not sending texts and tweets regarding Adam Jones' future, he's on the backfields in Owings Mills all week long for the Ravens, of course, headed out to Canton. We still have some space on our Ray Lewis buses for the weekend. Hurry, hurry, hurry. They're leaving soon. We're going to see the Indians and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Luke will be there, and it'll be so much fun this weekend. My wife's running the Saturday bus out to Canton. Come along, come one, come all. Nasty at WNST.net if you want to go to Canton this weekend. All of our cool stuff is in the Buy a Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness, PlanetFitness.com, where it's always $10 a month. There's never any commitment. They're always judgment-free. Keep your clothes on. You know what I'm talking about. And last but never least, the Maryland Jockey Club and our friends at Laurel, where the entries are on the front of WNST.net each and every day, all day, as well as in our morning newspaper that comes to you each and every morning. Any breaking news? If Adam Jones accepts a deal to the Philadelphia Phillies, you'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.